Dr. D. Rajmadangi has vast clinical experience in general medicine. Her qualification includes MBBS and MD. She is known for her punctuality and empathy. Her unique feature, highly appreciated by her patients, is her patience in explaining the disease condition and treatment plan with very simple, easily understandable words. She emphasizes on naturally obtained nutritious diet and exercise plan customized for each individual patient according to their lifestyle. Her specialties expertise are diabetes mellitus, hypertension, thyroid disease, obesity, and preventive cardiology. Welcome, doctor. Today, Dr. Raj Madangi is going to discuss about everything that you need to know about herd immunity.
Good evening to all. So I'm here to discuss about herd immunity. So herd immunity, the name, the term for common people, I would like to call it as population immunity or a society social immunity. So basically what does it mean, herd immunity? Herd means a group of animals or a group of individuals or some group is called herd basically. So the protection that is exhibited by a group of individuals is called herd immunity. So the group immunity is something that is exhibited by a group which is happened to get the immunity from either vaccination or by getting the disease and recovering from the disease. So and the group, that group will give protection for people who have not gotten the disease and who are not vaccinated for the disease also. So how do they do that? So when in a population, if you have like 10 members and you have like 6 of them who are vaccinated, so they will be protected from the disease. 2 of them get the disease and they have recovered from the disease, so they also have some immunity against the disease. So in this, other 2 they are not vaccinated also, they have not gotten the disease also. So those 2 are the vulnerable patients, meaning they are susceptible to get the disease anytime. So now from the other group, from the outside, so these 10 people are the herd. So in these 2 individuals who have not gotten the vaccine or who have not gotten the disease will also will be protected because by the herd immunity which the group is exhibiting, because the disease which is going to get transmitted has to come through people. So when they are when the person who has gotten the disease is spreading the disease, if they are spreading it to the people who are, when they are coming in contact with the people who are vaccinated against the disease, they will be protected because they have already antibodies in them which will prevent the disease from occurring. So the people who have already gotten the disease also would have recovered from the disease, so they will also have antibodies to prevent a second infection. The other 2 will not have anything, but even though they don't have anything, these people will be a protector for them, because in an individual many people should get the disease to spread it. When 8 people in that group are immune to something, they indirectly protect the 2 who are not vaccinated and who have not gotten the disease also. That is called herd immunity. So another thing, why we need to know about herd immunity? So herd immunity is something which is very famous because of smallpox. So smallpox has been eradicated by CDC, the disease control center. So how did they do that? They did that by herd immunity, meaning they vaccinated as many people as possible against smallpox. So when they did that, it's not possible to cover everybody, but still when they were able to vaccinate maximum people, they were all, either they vaccinated lots of people or they had lots of individuals who have recovered from the disease. So what happened to people who didn't get the vaccine and who didn't get the disease were, they were protected because of these people. So that's how we were able to eradicate the disease. So when the person who is having the infection is coming in contact with the person who is vaccinated or who has already had the disease, they will not be able to transmit the disease. So the disease chain breaks there. So that's how we know that these people are not going to get the disease, because lots of them are having the immunity against the disease. So another thing, why herd immunity is very important. What are the benefits of herd immunity for the community is what I would like to discuss. It's the herd immunity is also called community immunity. So why is it beneficial? So there are lots of people in the community who cannot get certain vaccines, like people who have had cancer and who are on ongoing chemotherapy treatment, or some people who are genetically having some immunodeficiency diseases, or some people, some children like newborn children, and other patients who are on long term radiotherapy, or some disease which is suppressing their immunity. So even if their vaccines are not able to work for them, so when we give a vaccine to a person, what happens? The person gets the disease, but they don't show the symptoms or they don't show any signs of the disease. But without the signs and symptoms, that whatever process a disease should cause is happening to the person who has taken the vaccine. So by the end of the disease, like within a 14-day period, they start to develop the antibodies against the disease, which will protect them for however long. Like for example, if it is a flu vaccine, like a viral infection for a flu vaccine, it protects them for a year. So every year we have to do a repeat vaccination. So like that, what happens to people who have had the disease? They develop the signs and symptoms also, plus they develop the immunity against the disease also. So the antibodies are the ones which save them in the end from a reinfection or from a severe infection basically. So when this happens in a community, what happens is that these people, when they come in contact with the people who are having the chemotherapy or some immunodeficiency problem, we cannot give them the vaccine also, because the vaccine will not develop any antibodies in them. They will not have any antibody response in them. So they are very vulnerable. If they develop the disease, that's all. They have very high rates of morbidity and mortality towards the end if they develop the disease. And we can't give them the vaccine because they don't have the capacity to develop the antibodies also. That's because their immunity level is itself very low. The production of antibodies requires normal immune system, like what is called active immunity in our body, which happens because of B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. So these lymphocytes are called the protective cells. So these cells are not working well for them because they are under chemotherapy or radiotherapy, or they are genetically having very less of these cells, or their function of the cells is very less. So they will not be able to produce any response to the vaccine. In fact, vaccines are contraindicated for such people, especially the live vaccines which we give. So what happens is, when we have the people who are able to produce the antibodies, the normal people, when the normal population, when we vaccinate them enough, they give protection to the people who cannot be vaccinated because of these medical reasons. They give protection to them by not transmitting the disease to them. So that's where they are breaking the disease chain. So it's very important. See, we have to help ourselves and we have to help the others also as much as possible. So these people who need our helps, it's not their fault that they cannot take the vaccine, right? So these people can be protected by a community, by normal people like you and me, and by the normal population, if we get vaccinated, because we break the chain. Transmission chain is broken by us. So that's why it's called community immunity. Second benefit that I would like to mention is that eradication of diseases. Like lot of diseases are happening and they are maintained in the community by human transmission. So when we are able to break the chain at the human transmission, we have a chance to eradicate the disease itself. So that's how, in polio was a very major disease which was affecting a lot of kids and leaving them paralyzed for life. So we were able to control that polio. What they saw in the 19th or even the 18th century, we are not seeing now. We are only seeing the people, the adults, who have already been damaged by the polio vaccine when they are in the post-polio residual paralysis stage. We are only seeing them. Nowadays, we are not seeing any newborn, any new child getting a polio and going into that paralysis stage. So why we are not seeing them? I have not seen a polio case. How? So the reason is herd immunity or the community immunity, which means polio is the vaccine that we have gotten to know and we are giving it for the children now regularly is the oral polio vaccine. So what happens is this, the mass polio vaccination program is still going on even though we have eradicated polio. Why? So the reason is herd immunity. So what happens when you give mass vaccination at a single 1 or 2 days time? When we give mass vaccination, we vaccinate all the children of the community in single day. So when we do that, what happens is we are injecting a killed vaccine basically. So when we are giving the killed vaccine to the patient, or the polio vaccine, the live polio vaccine, when we are giving that to the children, what happens is that at the same time all the children will start to develop the immune response to the polio virus. So even if 1 or 2 children are not getting, their parents have not given the vaccine or due to some reason they were not able to get the polio vaccine, what happens is that the children who have already been vaccinated, when they pass stools, in their stools this vaccine virus will be there. So that vaccine virus is an inactivated form. So it will not cause any signs and symptoms even though it's a live vaccine. So what happens is that the vaccine virus, the inactivated vaccine virus will be spread into the community by the children who have gotten vaccine. So the children who have not even gotten the vaccine, they will also pick up this vaccinated virus because it's a fecal-oral transmission basically this. So at this low socioeconomic status group or people who are living in the slums, these areas are the ones which they don't go for the immunization properly because of their lack of awareness. So if 1 children in that community, 1 or 2 children itself get the vaccine, they will be able to spread that vaccine virus in the form of fecal-oral transmission, something that is there in the community. They can spread that disease also spreading through fecal-oral. So we are spreading the vaccine virus in the fecal-oral transmission rather than the live virus which can actually cause problems. So when we do that, the children who didn't get the vaccine also will develop immunity. So that's how the whole community is protected. That's why we decide to have polio vaccination on a single day, so that maximum children can be vaccinated. Through the vaccination, the children who are not vaccinated also will get the benefit from the vaccinated children. So another benefit in the herd immunity is that lot of times, lot of diseases like measles and lot of diseases like this, H1N1 influenza. So these influenza, pneumococcus disease, All these things are all, the transmission is through nasal droplets. So we cannot totally prevent everybody from these infections. So when we have vaccines for these infections, so what we can do is we can protect the children, we can protect the adults also, we can protect a lot of unvaccinated people against so many diseases. So this is one main advantage that is happening. Third thing is that there are a lot of vaccines which cannot be given to children at till certain age. If you see, till 2 years of age, we are trying to avoid even flu vaccines. Flu vaccines also we start to give only after 2 years. That is because their immunity is very immature in that stage. So only few vaccines can be given before the 2 years of age. So like typhoid, everything we give only after 2 years. So they will not be able to withstand, they will not be able to produce antibodies as we expect. So at this till 2 years they should not get those diseases. Yeah. So that also we can protect the newborns by vaccinating the adults, by breaking the disease transmission, as again I told you. That these are the benefits. So what are the disadvantages in herd immunity? So there are few disadvantages. One is the cost of the vaccine. The cost benefit ratio is very much important in this. That's why we are not able to eradicate lot of diseases, and we were able to eradicate only a few diseases like smallpox, polio and all that, because the cost of the vaccine, the preparation, everything has to be done, and it has to be given in a very mass vaccination program. So we cannot do for everything because of the cost factor, but whatever we are able to do, we are able to see the good difference. Similar way for pneumococcus, for influenza, these vaccines are not free of cost. Even at a government center, it's not free of cost. Why? Because the cost of the vaccine is very high, and we are not able to afford it for everybody, and we are not able to conduct mass vaccination camps for these vaccines. And that is another reason why we are not able to get a herd immunity in these people. Another thing is that these serotypes, the strain, the type of virus that is causing, there are too many viruses. Like types of viruses will be different in polio itself, or even in influenza. The types of strains are different. That's why in flu vaccine, if you see, they'll give for each year they'll be updating. You'll have a 2020 strain, 2020, like 2019 strain, 2020 strain, like that they'll be updating it. So these updates cannot be done in all viruses, right? Because it's emerging. So we and if they produce mass vaccines for these kind of a strain, and the new strain has developed, means it's a waste. So the cost benefit ratio is very important. Why we are not able to eradicate a few diseases, and why the herd immunity is not able to establish in a few disease patterns. So that is the disadvantage in this herd immunity. So we are able to give it only for a few stable viruses. We are not able to provide it for some unstable viruses where they keep emerging and they form new strains. Lastly, what I would like to suggest in this herd immunity is that one of the reasons why we talk about this herd immunity is that we have to, the take home message today should be this only. We have to protect the people who cannot be protected, like the chemotherapy patients, the radiotherapy patients, and the newborn kids, and some immunodeficiency syndrome patients, and even some HIV patients who are in the AIDS syndrome state. Even they cannot get some of the vaccines. And there are few children who are having genetic immunodeficiency diseases where they have to be protected from these diseases. Only if the normal population breaks the chain, disease transmission, we cannot affect these vulnerable people. It's not their fault that they are not able to get the same reaction as you and me as the normal population for the vaccine. So we have a job at our hand. It's in our hands to prevent and protect these people when we can do. So I would like to tell people through this Facebook Live and create awareness that please, all the adult vaccines which are necessary, especially for age old patients, pneumococcus vaccine and the influenza vaccine, please put these vaccines annually. Influenza is annual, pneumococcal is every 5 years. And there are some people who have not gotten chicken pox in their life. So these people, adolescent age, they can also get the chicken pox vaccine. So if when people who are normal, if we choose to vaccinate ourselves, we have a chance to break the disease transmission in the population, thereby giving the community the immunity that they require. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. You have shared the valuable information to us. And now I have prepared some questions to discuss with you on this special session. Shall I start, doctor?
Yes.
The role clinicians play in herd immunity and vaccination.
So it is the clinician's duty to inform all the patients who come even for some other problem. Like, if they come for diabetes to me, I would like to tell them about the vaccines that they require to put. What are these vaccines and how they can protect them. So it is our role to create awareness in even the general population and for the special population, the geriatric population, about vaccination and what are the requirements for the vaccination, who all can get it safely and how, in what intervals they should get. So it is our role to create awareness in them. So we are the main people who can bring about this herd immunity into practice. Only when we create awareness in all these people who come for some other problem, they come for some fever or sugar problem also, if all the clinicians take just 2 minutes to talk about vaccination and the importance of vaccination, the general population definitely will understand, and we can provide the vaccination, and we can also create awareness about herd immunity and protect the unprotected.
Okay, doctor. What is the science behind how herd immunity works, doctor?
So the science behind this is very simple. It is a protection which is given to the community by people who have already gotten the vaccine or who have already gotten the disease and who have the antibodies to protect themselves from the disease. So what happens? There are 5 people in a gang, just imagine. So these 5 people, 2 of them have already gotten the disease. Let's take COVID is something which is very popular now, so I'll give an example with COVID itself. So a group of 5 students, college students, who stay in the same room.
Okay.
So they're coming to the college after this COVID lockdown and everything. Now the colleges are starting, right? So they'll be back in the college. So these 5 people, 2 already have gotten COVID and they have recovered from it and they have natural antibodies against COVID. So they will not get a next infection, meaning they will be protected against COVID now.
Okay.
So they will be very happy to come in because they already have gotten the infection, they have already immunity, they know. Okay. And in the other 2, let's say the vaccine has already come and they are vaccinated for it. So they will also have some protection.
Yes.
So the last person alone, she didn't get a vaccine also, she didn't get the disease also. So what happens if these 5 people stay together? So what happens? All of them are going out and coming and everything. If none of them are vaccinated, if none of them have had the disease, what will happen is all 5, when they go to different departments and come back, they can easily contract the disease and come and give it to any one of each other. Now that 4 people are already having a protection against a single disease, when they go out and come, even if they come in contact with a person who has COVID, the 2 persons who have already had the COVID and already having antibodies will not get. They will not be able to transmit it to the girl who has not had any exposure to COVID or even to the vaccine. And the vaccinated people also, when they go out, they cannot catch the disease, so they can also not give to the girl. Only if the fifth girl, the fifth person who has not had the disease, who has not had the vaccine also, only if she goes and comes in contact with the person who is already having the disease, only she can get it from others. The other four who are staying with her cannot give her the disease. So actual chance, if all five of them are unprotected, unvaccinated, or they didn't get the disease, means all five can transmit to each other. So they have a 100% chance of getting. Now in that, four people are not going to give it to her. Only she can get the disease if she comes in contact. Which means almost 4 by 5 chance we are cutting down. Only 1 by 5 chance is there for her to get the disease. So that's how this herd immunity works. So that's the science behind it. So people who are already vaccinated or who have already had the disease, they cannot transmit the disease, they cannot catch it and give it to the person, give it to another person who's not had the disease. They come in contact, they can get it. These people will not get. So there is a chance to break the transmission, right?
Okay.
4 people giving it to one person, or 5 people giving it to 5 among the 5 itself, which is bigger. The chances are more with 5 giving it to the other 5, right? Rather than one person getting it.
Yes, doctor.
So that's the science behind it.
Okay, doctor. And is herd immunity effective against all disease, doctor?
No, definitely it's not effective against all diseases. It can be done only for patients, for the population where the disease is very easy to spread, and we already have a vaccine for it. Only these kind of disease can be prevented, or they can exhibit this herd immunity.
Okay, doctor. Can we still get the flu after a flu shot, doctor?
Yes, definitely you can get a flu after a flu shot, but the advantages of the flu shot would be, if you have the strains, there are only for certain strains, there are like about 10 strains in the vaccines. When we take the flu shot, we are only immune against these 10. We are not immune against all the strains. That's the beauty. The thing is, these 8 strains have some cross reactivity with the other strains also. So they have a protection, with basic protection can be given for all flu, but there are some strains which are little different. So we can even get them, but the disease will not be very severe. So we can get a flu, but we will not suffer as much as a person who has not had a flu shot, and the severity will be very less. And the signs and symptoms will last only for a very short period of time. So the strains which are there in the vaccine will be protected against it 100%. But other than those strains, if we get some other strain, we can have a normal disease course, we cannot do anything. That is the disadvantage in this herd immunity also. When we don't have vaccines for the strains, some strains we cannot create a vaccine. So it's under research purposes. So these strains will not exhibit herd immunity because there is no vaccine at all. So how can we get a protection for the community? We cannot get. So only the strains which are very common, which are very very life threatening, people go into research and find a vaccine for it, and these strains we will be protected against them 100%. And some strains which are closely related, lot of viruses are closely related, so those closely related viruses also will be protected against, but we cannot tell 100%. Severity will be very less and the disease suffering time will be very less. That's the only thing we can tell.
Okay, doctor. Is there any certain reasons why people cannot get certain vaccinations, doctor?
Yes, because they don't, like I mentioned, the benefit of whole herd immunity is protecting the unprotected. People who are on radiotherapy, people who are on cancer therapy, people who are on cancer treatment, chemotherapy, and people who are having some genetic immunodeficiencies, people who have had their spleens removed, splenectomy patients, people who have had some genetic immunodeficiency disease or HIV, these patients and newborns, these people cannot get some of the live vaccines because their immunity level, the immunity level that needs to be created by the vaccine is brought out in a patient by the lymphocyte system. So these lymphocytes itself, the function and the number of lymphocytes itself is very limited and very they're not functioning well in these kind of patients. So we cannot develop immunity. So we cannot give these vaccines to them. It's totally contraindicated for these patients.
Okay, doctor. Why do we need to get vaccinated for disease we already have herd immunity for?
So we already have herd immunity means we need to continue the herd immunity, right? See, new people in the population are coming. Every day there are so many people who are born, so many people who die.
Yes.
So we need to compensate for that. So the people who die are the warriors of the herd immunity. They are the ones who are providing the herd immunity. Now that they are dead, we need new people. That's why we need to continue the vaccination program so that the newborns will be protected, the new generations will be protected. Since the old people are all dying, so we need to continue the regimen so that the herd immunity is maintained.
Okay, doctor. Is immunity from a natural infection stronger than immunity from a vaccination?
No, both are same.
Okay.
Only disadvantage is that natural immunity, you have to suffer through the disease to get the immunity. Vaccination, you are not suffering the signs and symptoms of the disease. You are getting only the good parts of the disease, which is the immunity and the herd immunity which you can give to others. So you can break the disease transmission when you are vaccinated. So without any suffering.
No, it's very useful, doctor. And is the polio vaccine linked to HIV or cancer, doctor?
No, that is a total myth. Polio is no way in connection with HIV or any other disease for that matter. Polio is a virus which attacks the GA system. Basically, children will develop some diarrheal symptoms, and that's how polio exhibits. And because of that, it goes and reaches the nervous system, and it causes irreversible neurological damages, which causes post-polio residual paralysis, meaning either one or two legs, both the legs or one hand will be paralyzed for life. They will not get back the function of that limb. So that is a very degenerating disease and a very debilitating disease. So we have, thankfully, we are able to exhibit herd immunity for that, and we have this mass vaccination programs to prevent this, so that the morbidity is more in polio rather than the mortality. So the morbidity and the quality of life is improved because of the herd immunity which has been produced by the mass vaccination camps by the governments. And that's why we are not able to see any polio cases in this 20th century.
Okay, doctor. And why can't we eradicate other diseases as we did with smallpox?
So smallpox, we were able to get the vaccine, and we were able to produce the vaccine in very large numbers, and we were able to convince people and get them to this mass vaccination groups. And they also, what happened was this smallpox also exhibited a lot of herd immunity. So that's why we were able to eradicate the smallpox disease. But the problem with other diseases is that there is only one strain in smallpox which causes, there's a single virus which causes smallpox.
Okay.
But that's not the case in influenza.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many strains. There are like more than thousands of strains for causing influenza.
Okay.
And now see, even now there was nothing called corona before, which was known to common people.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there was corona even before. Okay, we
Yes.
all have studied it in our textbooks about coronavirus.
Yes.
But only in this 2020 we are seeing lot of cases and life-threatening situations by coronaviruses. It was not a very life-threatening virus when I was a student, when I was studying about it only in the textbooks. I have not seen a case. The thing is, emergence of these new diseases. So these coronavirus, lot of other respiratory viruses, they have a tendency to, upgrade themselves. Like how we update ourselves, they have a tendency to upgrade themselves, and what they do is they keep changing their strains and their structure. So when they do that, the vaccines become less useful. So that's why we are not able to, the flu vaccine that we have taken this last few years, we are not able to give protection for corona because of that, because the corona structure is different. We need a new vaccine for that. So these viruses keep changing their strains and their structure and everything. So when they keep changing, we don't have a stable vaccine for that. That's why we are not able to eradicate all these diseases. And we were able to eradicate polio and smallpox and all, because the virus structure was very stable and the vaccine was very easy to produce and very easy to administer also.
Okay, doctor, thank you. And isn't it that true that better hygiene and nutrition were responsible for decreases in deaths and diseases rates rather than vaccines, doctor?
See, nutrition definitely helps to some extent. But the problem is we cannot expect everyone to be very perfect in their nutrition, right? Our country is having a massive population, and we have lots of low socioeconomic people and uneducated people, and who don't have any awareness about this nutrition basically. So we cannot address everybody for their nutrition, because nutrition is something which has to happen every day. So only if you eat every day well, you can have a strong immunity, and you can have a strong response to the diseases, and you can have some protection from these diseases when you have a good nutrition for every day. If you leave it for just 1 month or 2 months, you are not eating well also, again your immunity level goes down, or you don't have that same capacity as a person who eats very well, right?
Yes.
So, but vaccine is not like that. Vaccine is like a single day or single shot. Single shot, everybody, a person who is little malnourished or mediumly nourished or normally nourished, all of them will have an equal response to the vaccine. But nutrition wise, I cannot 100% tell that this person will have good nutrition forever. I cannot give guarantee, because nutrition is ongoing every day. Every meal is important in nutrition,
Yes.
to be perfect.
Yeah.
But vaccine is not like that. No, it's very easier to monitor. Once you give and you get the response for it. But nutrition wise, you have to keep monitoring. We can't monitor them, and we cannot force people also. So it's very difficult to maintain by nutrition alone general good immunity, and a specific immunity to some infections, like respiratory infections and all. Even for healthy people, you can get. Lot of people who are healthy and who have not had any comorbid conditions have also died in corona. How did they die? So it's not totally related. That's what I feel. So even a lot of people who have had comorbids also have become better in corona. Not that everybody have died. So vaccination is obviously much more. You can see the response, and you can assess the response, rather than just with nutrition for the immunity basis.
Okay, doctor. People say that vaccines are linked to long-term health problems such as multiple sclerosis, diabetes, and autism. Is that true, doctor?
No, it's not true. And there are a few viruses, like in the previous years, we used to have some few viruses, like immaturely produced vaccines, like for rabies and all, used to cause some, in 1 lakh people, or in 10 lakh people, one person will get some kind of side effect. But it's very, very less now, since we have developed new vaccination development, and research is going on in that for developing vaccines without any side effects. So nowadays it's like 0%. So definitely most vaccines are safe now. Very rarely 1 or 2 vaccines which are like rabies and all are having some problems. Even now corona vaccine is under development and under research, and they are also testing them. Very, 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 very few people are having some mild side effects, is what has been shown in the newspapers and in the journal papers. But still everything needs to be validated, and we have to wait for the results. So in my opinion, basically all vaccines are safe, and especially once we know that it is safe, after testing only they get released into the market.
Okay, doctor. Why is there a new flu vaccine every year, doctor?
Exactly. So flu vaccine is these virus strains, they keep changing their structure. They keep evolving. So they evolve according to their environment, according to the disease population which they stay in. So that is the reason why we need to have annual vaccination for flu, because the strains keep changing. So once they keep changing, we need to update our immunity to these new strains.
Okay, doctor. Can baby's immune system handle so many vaccines, doctor?
That's why we can't see, the baby's immune system is very good. They can handle vaccines. That's why we are able to give them and we are able to get a lot of response to them. But the thing is, that's why we have a schedule for them. We can't give all vaccines at a single time. And there is a time period specifically to give which all vaccines first, which all vaccines to be given after 2 years, and what intervals of time you have to give. That is why the schedule is very important. So definitely they can handle, but you have to go according to the schedule to get the maximum benefit.
Okay, doctor. It's very useful. And can you get the disease from the vaccine that's supposed to prevent it? And why do some vaccines have live pathogens but others have killed pathogens?
So some vaccines have live and some vaccines have inactivated, because some live vaccines, they were able to retain the structure and inactivate them alone instead of totally killing them. That is because they were able to produce a similar virus which will not cause any signs and symptoms but will cause the same immune reaction. But there are some viruses, some bacteria where we are not able to do that. That is why in some we have a live and some we have a killed vaccine, because only killed will not cause any signs and symptoms. If you give a live in that, they will cause signs and symptoms. We don't want the suffering. If we have the suffering, many people will not take the vaccine. That is the reason why a lot of vaccines are killed and a lot of vaccines are live, because some live vaccines we can just inactivate that subunit alone so that the signs and symptoms will not come.
Okay, doctor. And may I know what preservatives are used in vaccines, doctor?
So most often the preservatives are very different in each viral, and depending on the vaccine which is viral or bacterial, and for how long. Usually flu vaccines are for 6 months basically. So depending on each type of bacteria or each type of virus and each type of strain, the preservative in them will be different, and most often we have preservatives which are non-allergic, so that we don't have any anaphylactic reactions. So these are the preservatives which are being used nowadays in all these vaccines.
Okay, doctor. Why is allergy to eggs contraindication to getting some vaccines, doctor? Or do vaccines have aborted fetal tissue or what, doctor?
No, they don't have abortal fetal tissue, but the thing is, there are some vaccines which, especially rabies vaccine. So when you take a rabies vaccine, we tell people to avoid eggs and chicken and all these things. But nowadays the vaccines have emerged. We have newer vaccines where you can take eggs and chickens, nothing will happen. In the initial days when they were all in the newly developed form, that time these vaccines, these viruses, usually viruses are grown in live tissue, like chicken eggs and this some fetal tissues. So it was grown in these type of tissues. That is why when the vaccine is extracted, these tissues also, some of the antigens in the tissue also can get included in the vaccine. So when that is injected to a person, he can have a allergy to the egg protein or whatever, the chicken protein which was there. So that is why we tell them to avoid, and we tell people who have already egg allergy not to take these vaccines, because these vaccines are prepared from chicken eggs. The virus stays in them. We need some live tissue for these virus to thrive. So we have to use these things. But nowadays we have moved on to some recombinant DNA live tissues. So we don't have this problem nowadays in the newer vaccines.
Okay, doctor. Does breastfeeding my baby protects them from infectious disease, doctor?
So when you're breastfeeding, the immunity that the mother has, a lot of IgG antibodies in the body that the mother has goes through the breast milk to the children. So there are some diseases, some vaccines which we cannot give it to the children because their immune system is very immature and very small. So these immature immune system cannot handle such vaccines, right? So when we have those antibodies in the mothers, these breastfeeding, the breast milk can transmit these antibodies and protect them till they can get the actual vaccine. So till 2 years of age, these antibodies can protect them from these kind of infections. So that is another reason why breastfeeding is very important for passive immunity.
Yeah, okay, doctor. Will catching an infectious disease make my child's immune system stronger?
It's not, it's a debatable question basically. The thing is, not all infections you will develop very high immunity and you will transmit everything into the breast milk, but most of the infections definitely you can develop some antibodies which can be going through your breast milk to the child, but not all antibodies that you produce will go to the child, and the amount that gets transmitted also you cannot totally quantify it basically. So most often the children who are breastfed are protected from the common infections, the common flu and everything, but you cannot guarantee it for a lot of other infections like like dengue and all, you cannot guarantee.
Okay, okay, doctor. My baby was born prematurely. Is it safe for him to be vaccinated, doctor?
Definitely, all premature children have to be vaccinated. Once they attain that certain milestones, they are little late in the development, right? So once they catch up that development, definitely we can give the vaccines at that catch up time. But the initial period, zero vaccines, meaning on the day the baby is born, only a few vaccines are very safe to give. What all we give is usually the hepatitis vaccine and the TB vaccine. So these vaccines are very safe to give even in premature born babies. But other vaccines like the typhoid, the rotavirus, or the pneumococcal, all these things, once they go through the catch-up phase, then we start to give it at the correct intervals.
Okay, doctor. How do I know that vaccines are safe and have been tested properly, doctor?
So there are lots of studies which go on. That is why this COVID also, since we have so many vaccines being prepared by Pfizer, by Oxford University, and even by India like Bharat Biotech. So all these vaccines they have a proper phase. They have a phase 1 trial, phase 2 trial, and a phase 3 trial, and a post-marketing reports also. So they have to go through all these phases. First it will be tested in animals, then it will be tested in humans who are normal, then it will be tested under randomized controlled studies. So once they clear all these tests and they know that there are no significant side effects to humans, only then it will be released into the market. That is why we are having such a delay for coronavirus, because we want safety. That is why we need to wait and let this phase trials go on according to the protocol.
Okay, doctor. Is there any link between vaccination and allergies, doctor?
There is no link between allergy and vaccination, since now there are lots of newer vaccines which have no egg protein or chicken protein in them, so definitely no.
Okay. So what happens if I decide not to get my child vaccinated and then change my mind, doctor?
That's not a problem. See, a lot of people have queries and they are not very fully aware and they get scared about the side effects which can affect for very rare patients. Very, very rare, like like in 1 crore people also it can affect, a little side effect can come. So these people get very scared for a single case report which has been reported by vaccine use. So they can change their mind at any time they want, but most often I would say, in my personal experience also, that once you change your mind, please get all the vaccines at the proper interval. Don't give all the vaccines. Since you have missed the vaccines, don't give everything at the same time. You need to give at a proper interval. There has to be at least a minimum of 1 gap between a live and a killed vaccine itself. Only then the appropriate antibodies and the quantity will come.
Okay, doctor. And how can I find out what's actually in the vaccine, doctor?
So in the vaccine, there will be a slip. In that ingredients itself, it will be given what are the strains which are there in the vaccine. So if it is the flu vaccine, what are the strains which are there in the flu vaccine? It will be thoroughly given. How many strains are there? Everything will be given in the vaccine cover itself.
Okay, okay, doctor. Is there any tips about this herd immunity, doctor?
So tips meaning one thing, the herd immunity or the community immunity. Only if as a community we all decide to get vaccinated, we can protect the unprotected, or we can protect the people who cannot get vaccine. Even if they want to get the vaccine, they cannot get the vaccine because it's contraindicated them. It's not going to do any use. In fact, it's going to do more harm to them. So we can protect these people by getting ourselves vaccinated, and we can break the disease transmission chain by getting ourselves vaccinated. So that is my only tip. And flu vaccine, please get your flu shots done, especially people who are old, who are having diabetes. Please get your flu shots done annually. Ask your physician before you get your flu shots done. Please get yourself a flu shot before you travel abroad, especially.
Okay, doctor. Actually, you have here shared a lot of things that which I have the doubts, and shall I know that what I have to do for prevent my health from infectious things or viruses, doctor?
So what are the things that you have to do to prevent yourself from a viral infection? First thing, have a balanced and a good nutrition. So when you have good nutrition, your immune system is fully equipped to handle any disease, and is fully equipped to produce antibodies. So they can produce the antibodies which are required, and they can prevent yourself from any infection. Second things, even if you get an infection, it can be of less severity, and you can come out of the infection by fighting it very hard if you have a good nutrition. Third thing is vaccination. Vaccination, whether your nutrition is good or not, if you are vaccinated, definitely the vaccination will provide the antibodies which are required to fight the infection. Thereby you will not be a carrier for the disease, you will not spread the disease, you will be a disease transmission chain breaker. Thank you.
Okay, doctor. Thank you. And you have shared about the importance of vaccination, one-day polio vaccination arrangement, why they are doing, and advantage of herd immunity, chemotherapy, and good example of the group of friends who they're having COVID, or about the vaccinations. Everything is very, very useful, doctor. Thank you, doctor, for sharing this valuable information about herd immunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Friends, if you wish to consult doctor, call 1860-500-7788 or visit www.apolloclinic.com for appointments. Thank you.